Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Smishak's Custom Baits. Rick Smishak here. As you can see, I'm in my room again. Last week was pretty hectic, so I didn't get any videos up. Even though they're Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the temperatures were fantastic here, which was still a good thing because I was having issues with the cooling system on my truck. Finally got that worked out. Although I do need to change the thermostat. It's sticking. Yeah, never mind. They're fixed, except for the swapping out that the thermostat, which will take 15-20 minutes. It's done. Okay, it's all fixed. So let's get to the last episode for chapter 6. Pardon me. In spring, the process, and today I will be referring to my notes extensively because I want to make sure there's information I want to make sure that I get right. I don't want to leave things out. I don't want to get them wrong. So, in the spring, the process of slowly becoming less active with lower metabolism and lower digestive rates starts to reverse itself. Fish, as their body temperature warms up, they start to move more, they start to feed more, their metabolic rates rise, and they're driven by the need to a couple different things. Their feeding is driven by the need to, one, replace lost energy reserves, and two, in the springtime, it's for it. They need to store up food reserves, energy reserves, for the spawn and for that reduced feeding period immediately after the spawn. So this becomes an ideal time to catch bass because they're feeding so heavily. Let's look at some lure choices, and this is the part where I'm going to refer to my notes heavily. It's kind of funny how when I was taking my notes that I did instead of starting with the warmer temperatures in the fall and working my way down, I did it backwards. Okay, I did the springtime right, I did fall backwards. Okay, so it's 75 degrees in the fall. The bass are in summer patterns still, but the days are getting shorter and the nights are getting cooler. Lure choices: plastic worms, crankbaits, spinnerbaits, topwater lures, and spoons. At 65 degrees, bass are gradually abandoning their summer haunts to move to deeper structure like rocks, isolated weed patches, or in the afternoons when the sun warms up the water in the shallows, they'll move back up into the shallows during the afternoons. Lure choices: plastic worms, lizards, tubes, crankbaits, spinnerbaits, and spoons. Spinnerbaits is one of my favorites, that and top water. So I'm always happy to see that those are good lure choices. I think that there's not, when it comes to fishing, there's not many things that are more exciting than actually seeing the fish come up and taking your lure off the surface. Yeah, I love that. probably the reason why I like fishing that so much. But 55 degrees, bass movements become noticeably more sluggish. Their metabolism, digestive rates are continuing to fall. Lure choices would be grubs. And when I was rehearsing this, I kept saying grubs instead of grubs. I don't know why, but I got it right this time. Grubs and tubes on jigs, spinnerbaits, and drop shot rigs. At 45 degrees, bass are starting to move towards deeper water. Lure choices would be tubes, jerkbaits, suspending lures, and drop shot rigs. At 35 degrees, bass are congregating in large groups in deep water, with most of them resting on the bottom. Lure choices this time, think small. Okay, like panfish sized lures, tiny tubes, light jigs, and grubs. Okay. In the springtime, At 45 degrees, the water warms up to 45 degrees. In addition to the other lures we just talked about at 45 degrees, you can add slow rolling spinner baits, okay, large blades, large Colorado blades. At 50 degrees, we'll use those same lures, or same spinner baits with the large Colorado blades, slow rolling. And we'll also add slow falling jigs, deep diving suspending baits, shallow crank baits, soft jerk baits. 60 degrees, focus shifts to for the fish. The focus shifts towards spawning. Lure choices: tubes on light jigs, Carolina rigged lizards and craws, softer hard jerk baits. 65 degrees, both males and females have moved back to deeper water to recuperate from the spawn. Lure choices include suspending jerk baits, smaller top water baits, buzz baits, Carolina rigged soft plastics, and crankbaits. 75 degrees, metabolic rates are high, and bass are feeding aggressively. They need to replenish food reserves. They need to store up food reserves for the coming winter, and they're digesting their food really fast at this point. Lure choices: soft baits, including worms, tubes, lizards, top water baits, including buzz baits, tandem spinner baits, and crank baits. Lure choices shouldn't be thought of as a one-size-fits-all deal. And I've been guilty of this, and we probably all have. Like one time in I think it was 4 hours, I caught like 15 bass on a blue and white tandem willow leaf spinner bait. So I thought, wow, I got it figured out here, And I never repeated that. At the time, I didn't understand why, but after reading this book, Knowing Bass, I do. The bass have already seen it; they've been caught with that lure, and so they've learned that, hey, that's not food. Okay, we thought it was food, but no, it's not. So that's something that needs to be taken into account too. We need to try to show bass something different. You're probably not going to catch very many fish the next day on the same lure, because they still remember. The longer you go before showing that lure again, the better your odds of catching them again. Although some of the fish you will never catch again, and some are dumb enough to catch them more than once in the same day on the same lure. It's just the way that it is. But the majority of the fish aren't on either extreme. It's also important to remember that water temperatures that we're getting from our fish finders and our trolling motors are just surface temperatures. If you've ever waded out into the lake, you know that in the shallows, when you first start wading, the water is pretty warm, and the deeper you go, the more you notice that the water down by your feet, your calves, is cooler than, say, if you're in waist deep water, than the water by your waist. If you go out to chest deep water, you'll notice that cooler water's a lot higher on your body. So that's something we need to keep in mind, because if the water in the shallows is 55 degrees, it might, and on the surface or on the lake, it might only be 50 degrees, in 10 feet, whatever. So those are a few things to keep in mind. This is the end of chapter 6. We have 3 more episodes to go. The third episode will be pretty short, probably. Or the third episode for chapter 7, probably pretty short. But that's okay. We're about done. We're getting close to being done with the book. I've enjoyed doing this, even though at some points it's been like, dang, am I ever going to get done with this project? Oh, yeah, I will. Just keep taking one step at a time, right? So with all that said, if you guys like what you saw today, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, would you please do so? And share the videos with your friends, especially your fishing buddies that would benefit from this. And until next time, folks, tight lines, calm waters, and God bless.